Okay, so I was not planning on buying this game. I originally seen all the trailers and everything, thought it looked cool. Then Nintendo's like, hey, $80? $80 for this game, please. And I decided, you know what? No, I'm gonna not buy this game. Switch 2? No thank you. Give it a week after the game came out. And what did I do? I obviously bought it because I love it when Nintendo abuses me as a fan. So today I just wanted to talk about the game, give some of my opinions on it, if it's worth it or not. So far I've played around 10-15 hours, and I do have quite a bit to say about it. So yeah, let's just get started. Let's start off by having a look at the first thing presented to any player when they begin this game, which is of course the character select screen. Initially when I saw the game for the first time in that cow in the trailer, I immediately got excited for this game. Mario Kart World has lots of crazy new characters that most people would have never even thought to add into the game. At first glance this seems great, like who wouldn't want to play as a cow or a dolphin? But when you look closer, you realize there's something missing when it comes to the roster. Where's Diddy Kong? How about Petey Piranha, the Koopalings, Funky Kong? All these characters are missing from the game. It really seems like Nintendo decided to replace some of its most iconic and creative characters with things like a bat and a crab. It really does not make much sense to me. Don't get me wrong, I think these characters are cool and they're super fun to have in the game, but when it comes at the cost of removing some characters that people love, it really just kinda sucks. There's so many options for characters that they could have added into the game. King Bob-omb from Mario 64, we got some Mario Odyssey characters, Cappy could have worked, the rabbits from that game, maybe people from Luigi's Mansion, Egad, or even more Donkey Kong characters like some of the forgotten ones like my favorite, Lanky Kong, who could forget him? And the list really just goes on. There's so many more people they could have added instead of just basic Mario enemies. It really is just super confusing to me why Nintendo would choose to go this direction with the character roster. At the end of the day, it's not a huge problem and doesn't really take away too much from the game, but it's just a bit disappointing to see so many characters left out this time. Another issue I have with the characters is that some of them have costumes, and you might ask, well, why is that a problem? Well, the issue with it is that only some of them have costumes. All these basic characters like the cow, the crab, the fish don't have any costumes, while Mario has like 9 different costumes, Luigi has 8, Peach has like 5. I understand that the options are limited for these characters and there's not really too much you could do to customize a cow or a dolphin or a crab, but you could at least give them one costume, I'm sure, rather than giving some of the more popular characters 30 of them. It really just further proves my point that they should have gone with better characters instead of just these basic Mario enemies. There's so many costume options for even just a character like Diddy Kong, but instead we're stuck with a bat who has no costumes, of course, because it's a bat. What can you do with that? Now, the thing that makes this even worse is the character select screen itself. It's just really bad. Instead of having one character slot for Mario that you could click and then choose a costume, each individual character has their own slot as well as an individual slot for each and every one of their costumes. It really just makes the character select screen a complete mess, and it's super unorganized. They kinda just show up in order of unlock, so you even have some costumes which are further along in the list than some characters you could have unlocked. Some of the more basic characters, for me anyway, are separated between costumes on the left and costumes on the right. It really just makes the character select screen look super messy and unorganized, and kinda hard to find any character that you want. I think that a character select screen more similar to Mario Kart 8 would have made a lot more sense here, especially when you consider just how many costumes are in the game. I'm guessing they did this to make the character roster look a bit bigger or something like that, but who are you fooling? You're not fooling me, Nintendo. You're not fooling anyone, I don't think, with this. Overall, I really think Nintendo could have done a lot better when it comes to the characters in this game, but it's not a huge deal to me. Though some of the characters are a bit lazy, it's still of course funny to me that you can play as a fish without arms in this game. And I would be lying if I said I didn't like that to a certain extent. It just feels like they got a bit rushed when it came to the characters and just started adding whatever assets they had already in the game and said, hey, let's put that onto a car. I'm sure that later down the line more characters are going to be added, but for now, it's really lacking. I almost forgot to mention the carts in this game. Mario Kart World has decided to do away with the customization options for the carts that we've had in Mario Kart 8 and even since Mario Kart 7, in exchange for a selection of pre-made ready carts that you can drive. I don't think it's a huge deal since really no matter what, there's always going to be a cart combo or a cart that is the best one out of them all that most people will just stick with, especially when playing online, but it's definitely worth mentioning that they removed that from the game. Mario Kart World has quite a few big changes to its core gameplay. We got riding on walls, grinding on rails, 24 players, jet skis, and even new mechanics for when you get hit by an item. I personally think the best new addition to the game is the rail grinding. It allows for a lot of really cool shortcuts, and it just feels super cool when you can pull one off. I haven't found too much use for the wall jumping personally. I mean, it's probably just a skill issue, and I've definitely seen some really cool skips with it, but personally, and I think for a lot more casual players, it's not as used of a mechanic in this game. The only track that I can really think of where the game is like, hey, jump on the walls is DK Spaceport. That's not to say it can't be used elsewhere, because it definitely can, and I've definitely seen a lot of people do it already in clips and stuff, but just maybe for more casual players, it's not really pushed onto you to use it. And I mean, maybe it's also just that I haven't learned the tracks enough yet, and I'll learn them later on, but hey. Another new addition in this game is you can now hold down the drift button while moving in a straight line, which will actually charge a jump for you. I really like this addition too. It pairs super well with the rail grinding and even with the driving on walls in some cases. There's many sections on tracks where you'll have guardrails on the side or even just rails that are a bit elevated, where normally you would just be avoiding, trying not to bump into them. But with the new rail grinding and jumping, you can actually just charge up a jump on top of it, and it really brings a new way of playing in certain instances to the game. In replacement of driving underwater, which we've had in Mario Kart again since Mario Kart 7, we now have jet skis. At first I was a bit disappointed that you can't go underwater anymore, but after I started playing with it, I think it works a lot better, especially with the game being an open world. Sure, maybe underwater could add more to the map, but in some ways it would really complicate things with trying to get around in the open world. The jet skis can also help to mix up gameplay a little more. The controls of them is slightly different from the normal driving. In certain situations, it will make you want to try to avoid water, almost as if it's an obstacle. Even though there's no consequence to falling in, you just don't want to fall in because it's a little harder to control. Probably one of the biggest changes to this game compared to any past Mario Kart is that there is now 24 racers in a race. And how does that work? Well, I kind of have mixed feelings about it. Sometimes I think it's a bit too chaotic and there's just way too many people on the screen at once. However, other times I do think it's really fun to have 24 racers, and the chaos adds a bit more fun to the gameplay actually. This is only in certain situations I find, which I'll go into deeper later into the video. Another new interesting change is how getting hit by an item or an obstacle affects the player. In previous games you would either launch into the air or start spinning around, but in this game there's a lot more variety to how you get hit. The way it seems to work now seems to be a lot more physics based. Sometimes getting hit you won't lose much speed at all, other times it'll work just how you would expect it to in a Mario Kart game, and then there's even some times where I've gotten hit and I really don't lose speed. There's even some times where I'll hit into an obstacle and I don't actually get hit and spin out, and my kart just kind of tilts to the side and keeps going. Sometimes it can look really weird when you get hit, but besides that I do really like how it feels. It makes the game feel a lot faster in that you're not guaranteed to lose all your momentum if you get hit by something. It really does help the game to feel more fast-paced and a lot more fun, because when you get hit by something, your momentum isn't completely stopped all the time and you just fall back to the last place and lose. Overall, I think the movement options in this game are great. The gameplay feels good to control, and I think that the movement really opens up a lot of potential for players to get super competitive at this game and just find a lot new shortcuts and everything. But at the same time, it's still super accessible and easy to understand for more casual players. There's not a ton of new items in this game, so we're just gonna kind of run through them pretty quick. Of course, you have all your classic items returning, like red shells, green shells, mushrooms, stars, lightning, but we also have some other items returning from previous games. First up, we have the feather. It makes you jump really high, and that's about it. Except for in battle mode, where you can actually use it to jump over a player and damage them. The only thing I found this feather super useful for is you can use it to jump over red shells and other obstacles that are ahead of you, of course. But I'm sure that it can be used in all kinds of ways for shortcuts and jumping onto walls and all that kind of stuff. But again, my skill is just not there yet. Next we have the Mega Mushroom returning from Mario Kart Wii. This pretty much works as expected, makes you really huge so that you can crush into enemies by running them over, but it also does grant a pretty significant speed boost as well. And it lasts for the entire time that you're inflated. And that's really all for returning items that we haven't seen in the game for a while. As for new items, we have the coin/golden shell, which leaves a trail of coins in its path as it's thrown. Then when it reaches the end of its line, it blows up into a bunch of coins. We have another coin related item in the game too, which is just a question mark block that can be spammed to gain more coins. It also does leave a bit of a trail behind you at the same time. Next we have the ice flower, which is just the fire flower but blue. Yeah, I'm not really sure what they were thinking with that one. It's kind of useless unless there's some other effect that I don't really know about. Next, and probably the most creative item they added, is the hammer. The hammer can be thrown multiple times and travels in an arch, then landing into the ground, and it will kind of stick there for a second or so. This item is really cool, but the only issue I have with it is that I cannot hit a single person with this if my life depended on it. I really don't know what's up with this thing, but it seems incredibly difficult to just hit someone with. Last and most certainly least, we have the Kamek Orb power-up. This thing is just actual garbage, completely useless. What it does is transform racers into another character for like 5 seconds. Like, okay, cool. I'm not really sure how that's supposed to affect my driving, but okay. It really must be like the most useless item in Mario Kart history. I mean, it does slightly lower your speed if you get hit with it, but not enough to even do anything. Getting hit by this thing is also one of the only ways to unlock some of the characters in the game. I really can't fathom why this was added. It's just a complete waste of an item. The last thing to mention before we move on is the new foods. I don't really know if they should be counted as an item or not, but basically they can be found in these little food bags instead of the question mark item boxes. These mostly appear in either free roam, of course, or on the longer open sections of tracks. Upon using them, you'll get a boost similar to using a mushroom, but it will also transform you into a different costume. That is, if your character has options for alternate costume. I'm pretty sure this is also the only way to unlock certain costumes, and you can get different ones by eating different foods with different characters around different places on the map. I think it's a pretty cool way of unlocking costumes, and a nice way to get a guaranteed boost in a race, where sometimes if you're looking for a boost you might not get a mushroom from an item box. If you see one of these things, you know that it will give you a boost. That pretty much covers everything about the items, so let's move on to the main part of the game that everyone is playing it for. Grand Prix mode, the main mode of every single Mario Kart game. Normally these would consist of 4 tracks per cup, and in this game we have 8 cups. However, as I'm sure you're all aware, this version of Grand Prix is very different to any other previous game. The main gimmick in this game is the open world, which we will get to later, but its open world has also been implemented into the Grand Prix in the form of racing between tracks. When I first saw this feature announced, I didn't really know how to feel about it. My first thought was that Grand Prix is now going to take forever to complete, and it feels like the developers thought of that as well. Normally in a Grand Prix mode, you would race 3 laps on each track included in the cup. However, in this game, the majority of each race is spent racing to the track. The race to the track counts as 2 of the 3 laps for that track. This means that you're only really racing on the track for 1 lap. I assume this was done to address the issues I initially thought of about the races taking way too long, but I really am not a fan of this. In my opinion, it really just takes away from the tracks themselves. Instead of spending time learning tricks, shortcuts, and just the overall layout of the track, I'm stuck spending most of the race on what essentially is just a straight line. I don't think that these sections are entirely bad, because they do work well in the game's other mode, which we will get to later, but it just does not fit well in the Grand Prix mode. I don't think I'm alone in saying when I enter a Grand Prix mode, I'm there to play the tracks. I don't want to spend the majority of the race going on a straight path. I want to learn the tracks, I want to learn the shortcuts and everything about them. I think it really is a shame that these intermission sections take so much away from the main tracks, because this game has some really cool tracks in it. Boo Cinema is probably one of my favorite of the bunch. You fly through the projector screen, drive on some film reels, it looks like an old Mario themed horror movie. It's super cool and creative. But unfortunately, once you get there, it's over faster than it took you to get there, because you spent 2 laps driving on a glorified highway. I should also mention that not all tracks are limited to only 1 lap. The first track of every Grand Prix mode always has 3 laps, and in some cases the last track also has 3. And it's not surprising that these tracks with 3 laps are some of my favorite in the game. Like DK Spaceport is really cool and creative. You race up the platforms, it looks like an old Donkey Kong stage. Super cool look to it. It's got some cool sections for wall riding and grinding on rails. Then we have this game's Rainbow Road, which it's Rainbow Road, it's gonna be great, obviously. I don't think it beats Mario Kart 7's Rainbow Road, but I mean, whatever could, that's the best one ever made. Come fight me on that. It's got some cool looking water sections, and of course, as Rainbow Road always does, super tight turns that just make you feel super good at the game, and are just really fun to race around. There isn't really a track in this game that I would say is bad, it's just that the whole racing between tracks thing really just bogs down the entire experience and takes away from the fun of racing on these tracks. And it's clear that others feel the same way as well. When playing in the online mode, the majority of the lobbies will choose for a random track, because this takes you directly to the track instead of having to race between them. I just really hope that Nintendo hears the fans and adds some sort of like classic mode or something that removes the races between the tracks and just gives us a standard classic Grand Prix style race. Because of these decisions to make you race between each track, I really do feel like Grand Prix mode has become one of the weaker modes in the game, which is ironic because the next mode is basically a mode that is nothing but the thing I just complained about. Knockout mode is essentially just a mode exclusively everything I hate about the Grand Prix mode, and I absolutely love it. In Knockout Tour, you compete against other players, racing across the open world, traveling on the paths that connect the tracks between each other. The twist here is the whole thing is one continuous race, and for each lap, you have to place high enough in order to continue if you don't want to be knocked out of the race. At first, I played this for a few times and said, oh, okay, so it's everything I hated about the other mode. But then, I played it online and discovered how fun this mode can really be. Each race just feels super intense, trying your best not to only make sure you win, but to make sure you don't fall behind far enough on each lap to get knocked out early as well. This mode is where the 24-player races feels its best. The roads are wide enough so that things aren't feeling too cramped, but when things do get close, the lap lasts long enough that if you get hit by everything, you're not going to completely lose. During these races, you will also go through sections of actual tracks, but this time it doesn't really matter that they don't last long because it's not the main focus of this mode. This mode is about the open spaces of road that connect the tracks and not the tracks themselves. This should have just been in this mode, and Grand Prix should have stick to a more traditional format. That way we could have a mode that focuses only on the tracks themselves and a mode that focuses on the connecting of each track in the open world. I think Knockout Tour is a really good addition to the game, and it really changes up the formula of Mario Kart in such a great way. I feel like battle mode is something that often gets really looked over in most Mario Kart games, and the same will definitely be true here, unfortunately. I used to absolutely love battle mode as a kid, and I would probably play it more often than I do the actual races, especially in Mario Kart DS and Mario Kart 64. But in recent games, it really just does not hit the same. Mario Kart World has two modes within the battle mode. You have, of course, the classic balloon battle mode, and the coin runners mode for those weirdos who enjoy that. We also have 8 different battle mode maps to play on in this game, which are actually just portions of tracks or areas in the game within the open world, but it actually works very well for them. The maps don't feel like a track, and they do actually feel like their own map, specifically designed for battle mode. The only issue here with this is the maps are way too big. In some cases, I thought it felt difficult to go and find other players just because of how far away everyone else is. I get that they have to be bigger for 24 players, but they really do just feel a bit too big for me. The designs of the maps themselves though, I do like, with my favorite probably being DK Pass. You fight on the ski slopes, which gives a pretty different feel, as everything's either uphill or downhill instead of being just a flat map. Some of these maps do have issues though. Moo Moo Meadows and Dino Dino Jungle have huge sections of grass that you're just expected to drive on, which would be fine if it weren't for the fact that grass slows you down. And it makes sense, grass has always slowed you down in Mario Kart, but the issue is that you're supposed to drive on it. It just makes it feel super slow when you're forced to go off track to go and attack other players, and you're basically punished for it. They really should have just either made it so there's no grass, less grass, or so that grass doesn't really affect and slow down the player when you're in battle mode, because it really just kills the round for me. I think the battle mode is fine. It's really nothing special this time around, and hasn't really been anything special for a while now, which is a shame because battle mode definitely has a lot more potential. I briefly mentioned some things about the online mode before, but there's some other things that I wanted to talk about as well. Obviously the game feels a lot more fun when you're playing online against actual players compared to just the CPU. When you're connecting to a race, you actually get to drive around in the open world while you wait for it to begin. I did see some people complaining about this and the fact that you can't spectate the races while you're waiting for them to begin. But at least personally, I would rather be driving around the open world and doing something rather than just watching other people play. And it's not like the wait times are super long either. Mostly it does not take long for a race to begin once you connect to it. Something to note about the online is the state of the Grand Prix right now. I mentioned before that people are selecting random at the end of the race because they don't want to race in between the tracks. This really makes the online version of Grand Prix much better, unless you're someone that enjoys racing between the tracks for some reason. If you do, I kinda hate you, not gonna lie. Please pick random. As for network issues, I have had a few times that I disconnected in the middle of a race, but it's kinda hard for me to tell if it's my Wi-Fi or if Nintendo's online is just still terrible. But we'll just say it's my Wi-Fi because it's really not the best sometimes. Online mode, as I'm sure most would expect, is definitely the most replayable thing in the game and will likely be what keeps people playing for a long time. The open world, the main draw of this addition to Mario Kart. So how does it live up to the hype? Well, I think it really depends on the person, to be honest. The open world is pretty big and does have a lot of different diverse areas that you can explore. All through the world you'll find peach medallions, P-switches, and question mark block panels. These act as challenges that give you rewards for completing them. The problem here is that they all give you the same thing when you complete them, and what they give you really is not worth your time. Completing a P-switch, collecting a medallion, or activating a switch will reward you with a sticker. Yeah, so these challenges are really not worth going for when it comes to the reward you get from them. And other than exploration, these are really the only things to do in the open world. Well, that's not entirely true. There are some random events that can happen, like chasing down certain characters. But what do you get from it? You guessed it, a sticker. And you may be asking yourself, what do these stickers do? Well, they show up beside your player icon at the end of the race. And that's about all. They're really not much of an incentive at all to make you go driving around the open world, unless you have some really unhealthy addiction to virtual stickers. And if that's the case, you might want to talk to someone, find some help. Not having an incentive to drive around the open world will definitely make it so that some people avoid the mode. There's others that will just love to drive around for the sake of driving around, and that's great. But for those looking for an actual goal, the stickers and collectibles may not be for you. However, I wouldn't say the challenges are all bad. Some of them can actually be pretty difficult, and they're fun to pull off when you can get them. I think that doing the difficult ones can really kind of just train you in a way and help you understand the game mechanics better. Will definitely help you to get better at doing things like wall jumps, grinding on rails, jumping from like one rail to a really far off one. But really, other than playing them to get better at the game or just playing them to have fun for the sake of playing them, there's not much of a reason to go for them. Now, as for just exploring the open world itself, I think it's fun for now, but will definitely get old pretty quickly. If you don't care about going for the different challenges, there's just not much to do. And if you do care, once you collect them all, again, there's just not much to do in the open world. The world really just feels so empty in a way. And it really sucks because open world Mario Kart has a lot of potential. And they could have done so much more with this mode than what they did. You do also have the different costumes you can unlock, which might give you a reason to go into the open world, find the foods that give you the costumes you're missing. But I believe that most of them can just be unlocked during regular races anyway. If you're someone that likes to aimlessly wander around an open world, then I'm sure you're gonna love this mode, and that's great for you. It is all really nice looking and has some pretty cool looking locations to visit. But for people like me who kind of want a goal or some kind of objective to complete, then I think that you may find yourself getting bored pretty quickly, because the stickers are just not cutting it. I would say the best use of the open world is practicing and developing different skills and techniques, which I think does definitely bring good value to the mode, but we can also always just practice in the time trials mode on the actual tracks as well. I'm hoping that later down the line they add some stuff to the open world that makes it feel more worth exploring, but for now it's really lacking in things to do. One other thing that I did think was cool though was the map system. You can open the map and see other character icons as well as the different locations. You can highlight each location to see which collectibles you're missing out on. You can click on all the characters to switch to that character, kind of like GTA style. You can also of course click on each location to fast travel to that as well. Loading into the open world is also really cool. You can either just go to the modes, click open world like a loser, or you can do the cool way and press the plus button on the main menu and instantly just load into the world wherever the video is already previewing that you're at. This seamless transition between menu and open world is really just a nice touch and looks super cool. I'm really hoping that Nintendo updates the game to add more areas to the world or just more things to do so that the game can really live up to its full potential. So, Is Mario Kart World worth it? Despite all my criticisms about the game, I don't think this game's bad at all. I think it's a really good Mario Kart game, and it will probably be our Mario Kart game for the next 7 or 8 years, or however long it takes for the next Switch to come out. And I'm completely fine with that. It's a fun game. I just do hope that Nintendo continues to support the game and add some DLC, new characters, new maps, and just some fixes for a lot of the issues that me and other people have with the game already. A huge point of discussion for this game was the raise in price from $60 to $80 in America, and that for people like me living in Canada is the game costing $109 plus tax, which is absolutely crazy for a game, and which was the entire reason I didn't want to get it in the first place. But then, of course, Nintendo, how can I say no? I'm such a good boy for Daddy Nintendo. But I'm sure something a lot of people is asking is the price increase worth what you're getting in the game? And I really don't think that there's anything new in this game that makes it worth a lot more money compared to past Mario Kart games, or even games like Breath of the Wild, Mario Odyssey, which costed a lot less money. My advice for people that want to get the game is I would say hold off, because of course it requires you to buy a Switch 2 as well. Right now, Switch 2 has Mario Kart, that's about all. Which technically means this game is like an $800 game if you want to play it, and it is definitely not worth $800. I would say hold off, wait for more games to come out, wait for some updates to come out for this game, unless you're like me and you're just, you know. With that all being said, I want to thank anyone that's made it this far into the video. It's my first video in like 2 years. Had a lot of fun making it. I know it's been a pretty long video by now. So yeah, thanks for anyone made it this far. If you did, make sure to like. If you're in this video for this long, you better be liking, you better be subscribing. I don't want to hear any of you not subscribing. So yeah, if you made it this far into the video, a like, a subscribe, sharing it with your friends and stuff would be greatly appreciated. It really does a lot for the videos. But yeah, I had a lot of fun making this video. I'm hoping to do more reviews in the future. Next will probably be Donkey Kong Bonanza. Cannot wait for that game. I've been waiting for that my entire life pretty much. But yeah, more content to come. Subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.